from wherever you're watching us from. You are welcome to yet another episode of the 𝐀𝐝𝐦𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐻 Digest, hosted by 𝐀𝐝𝐻 Consult Limited. On today's episode, we are going to discuss a very important topic, staying relevant in a changing industry. Kindly let us know in the comment section your name and where you are calling us from. If today is your first time joining us, kindly let us know so in the comments. Also, feel free to share the link to other professionals so they can benefit from this discussion. Today, we have with us a very accomplished man. On this day, we are celebrating fathers. With him, we are going to discuss a very important topic, staying relevant in a changing industry. Let me tell you a bit about 𝐀𝐝𝐻 Consult Limited. 𝐀𝐝𝐻 Consult Limited is a human resource and business consultancy firm with offices in Accra and Kumasi. Consider your employee life cycle from recruitment to training, managing their performance to remuneration. 𝐀𝐝𝐻 Consult Limited provides services in all these areas and more. So from recruitment and talent acquisition to training and development, performance management systems, developing compensation and salary structures to other projects, you can contact 𝐀𝐝𝐻 Consult Limited. Again, kindly let us know your name and your location from which you are watching us from. And so today, before we get into it, I would like to talk about a few training programs we have on our schedule as a consultancy firm. The first I will talk about is planning and organizing an effective training and development, which is happening at our Kumasi office on the 2nd and 3rd of July. It's a 2-day program and it goes for a fee of 2,600 Ghana cedis. Kindly add this to your schedule and make sure to be there. We are a team focused on consistent professional development, and so for that matter, we are also bringing you another training on the 15th to 17th of July at our Accra office on the topic HR Data Analytics, Turning Business Data into Success. It is a 3-day training, in-person training happening at our Accra office, going for a fee of 3,600 Ghana cedis. Also, make sure to add this to your schedule and be there if you are interested in the topic. Again, since we are focused on continuous professional development, we make it a point to merge or bring together early professionals and graduates with experienced professionals. And so we are calling on mentors and mentees to apply for this cohort for us to create the avenue for you to develop yourself as a professional. And since every experienced professional can point to at least the person who held their hands one way or the other in their career, we are also calling on experienced professionals to apply for the mentor spots to be able to train and mentor other young professionals. If you are looking for a workspace, a workstation, especially for our remote workers, at our Accra office, you find suitable spaces, fast internet, and suitable amenities to allow you do your work in a conducive environment. We also have a training room for companies who are interested in hosting their training sessions and other programs. And so before I get into it, I'd like to tell you about our speaker today. As I mentioned, this is a very accomplished man. Our speaker today is Professor Eugene Owusu-Acheampong. He is a scholar and practitioner with over 25 years of experience as an educator, researcher, entrepreneur, consultant, mentor, and coach. He specializes in human capital development and management, with a strong focus on equipping individuals with 21st century skills that enhance employability, adaptability, and continued relevance in an evolving world of work. His expertise also encompasses innovation and suitable business practices, particularly in creation, growth, sustainability, and management of micro, small, and medium enterprises. Through his teaching, research, consulting, and capacity building initiatives, he promotes leadership development, succession planning, entrepreneurship, and enterprise sustainability, contributing to management education, economic growth, and the strengthening of entrepreneurial ecosystems across Africa and beyond. Professor Eugene Owusu-Acheampong is the Dean of the School of Business and Management Studies at the Cape Coast Technical University. And so we have the pleasure of having this accomplished man to give us a brief presentation on the topic, staying relevant in a changing industry. You are all, Professor.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, my brother. Right. The name is Eugene Owusu-Acheampong. Acheampong. Yeah. Well, I think it's nice coming to this. It's a privilege coming on this platform. I think this is my third, if I'm not mistaken, of having to do something with a SADAT concert. And I'm happy since we're here to disseminate information or to share experiences and ideas. I think that it is indeed a good opportunity to do so. So once again, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right.
And so we can get right into it.
Yeah, I want to project my slide.
Yes, please. If you've just joined us, you are welcome again to the 𝐀𝐝𝐦𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐢𝐨 Digest, brought to you by 𝐀𝐝 Consulting. Kindly let us know where you are watching us from in the comment section, your name and where you are watching us from. Also, feel free to share the link to other professionals like yourself so they can benefit from this discussion.
Well, while it is processing, let me take the opportunity to give you a brief introduction so that I don't waste the time available for the presentation. I am very hopeful that all of us here are well aware that the global market, and particularly the African market, is not a static one. It's very dynamic and it keeps changing from time to time. And the drivers or the forces that bring about this change are numerous. And it is important that we also learn to adapt to the emerging global challenges that brings about changes in the work we do in our respective organizations. Hence, the need for us to upscale the existing skills we have to be able to stay relevant in business and in industry, whichever industry you find yourself, whether education, whether a hotel, whether how do you call it, any industry that you find yourself, whether in the electricity or power generation industry, whether in the processing industry, whichever industry you find yourself, since technology keeps evolving and new ones keep coming, we must also learn to adapt to use these technologies to be able to meet the challenges of the 21st century jobs. Now, for the purpose of our discussion, we are going to look at some key areas. Please, I hope you can see the slides. Hello, I hope you can see the slides.
Yes, Prof, I can.
All right. So we are going to look at these key areas. We look at what relevance is, we may have different explanation, but for the purpose of this presentation, it has a unique explanation. Then we look at the change forces, the forces that bring about the changes upon which we need to also upskill the existing skills we have. Then we look at the current skills that is required for job. Then in contemporary society, the use of AI for business activities, generating reports, data analysis have also become very relevant. Then we see how we can plan growth for ourselves in the field of work. Now let's look at the idea relevance. Now we can have different synonyms to mean the same thing. Somebody will say importance. Again, somebody will say the usefulness. But regardless of the synonyms that you may use to replace the word relevance, you must say that it is not about a fixed qualification, but rather it is the current value a person brings to a changing workplace. Now, even today, if you finish school after a year, if you're not very careful, you can't meet the skill requirements needed for jobs. We normally complain about the gap existing or the discrepancy in the skill required in the job market and that of the tertiary institutions or institutions of higher learning. We see a gross mismatch, and therefore it is always important that we continuously learn to be able to adapt to the fast changes in the global world that we see. So let's look at some of the why industries change. Basically, you and I know that technology and automation has become the major driving force of the changes in industry today. And let me say that if you operate a restaurant and you use, let's say, mortar and pestle for the pounding of fufu for your clients, if you're not very careful, you end up wasting your time at your restaurant or shop or bar. Today, there's a new technology. Of course, we're not saying that the pestle and mortar, they are old technology, they are all technologies anyway, but new ones have come, and therefore you can have what they call the excuse me, the fufu grinding machine. That makes it very fast. You can serve numerous people within the shortest possible time. But if you're using mortar and pestle, it takes a long time to do so. So technology basically is driving so many things today in our world. Most of the time when we say technology, people assume that it is computer-based technology that we talk about, but it's a word that cut across every sphere. You remember I just used the mortar and pestle. It's technology. But in those times, that was the technology that was really available for pounding fufu. Until new ideas came that people realized that no, it is important that we get new ways of making things easy for ourselves. So technology and automation basically is one of the key things that we have. And today, we also realize we used to have several cars. We used to have the manual cars. Then we have the automatic cars, which is currently in existence. Now, if electric cars and so many other cars are coming, it's not because the manual cars weren't good; they were good, but now as society develops, new ways of doing things come for us to make things very simple, and therefore it is important that we understand the concept of technology in diverse ways. The customer expectation, the demands for customers, and basically for specificity and let's say for customization purposes, have made expectations of industries also change. The customer may come to order for goods or services or for an item and may come with different specifications. And of course, the industry persons must have the skill required to do what customers need to do. Customers' expectations vary across, but notwithstanding, the expectations of customers are key. And of course, we usually say that anytime you want to assess the market and do market segmentation, you need to understand the customer expectation before you do that. If you don't do that, then you end up producing goods and services which should not be patronized by the client, and that will go waste for you. But remember, one of the priorities of organizations is to maximize returns on investment. So looking at customer expectation is a major driving force why organizations need to also bring in innovation or new things or new ways of doing things to make things better. The competition and platforms. Now, competitions are key. Now we are not in a monopolistic era where an organization will take charge of the supply or the distribution of a particular commodity. Today, there are a lot of organizations around that are competing for customers and also for profit. And therefore, the idea of competitive edge that organization must have also come to play. Now, competition, basically due to the force of demand and supply, hopefully is a backbone to the dynamics we see in the world market today. Everybody wants to outweigh the other. If you look at the major telecommunication networks in Ghana, the Telecel and the MTN, you recognize that now we used not to have this technology, the mobile technology we have today. But one brought it, other also brought it with different features, and others have to upgrade it. So now, if you are adding features, then we need people who are inclined, employees who are inclined to bring these new features on board, so that at least your services will be better than the other competitor. And this basically the competition and other platforms that we have access to may create the necessity for us to have new skills or get people with skill in different specialized area for productivity purposes, for which skill will become difficult to imitate. And regulations and standards, now things have improved. Now standards, now we are looking at doing market globally, and global standards are different, unlike the one perhaps we may have in our country. Therefore, to meet global expectations, you need to also live up to expectation and ensure the quality of your commodities or the services that you render. Now, currently, we talk about sustainability, and the issue of green transition and the concept of recycling has taken over the entire landscape. And Sustainable Development Goal 17 all emphasize on sustainability, all emphasize on green transition. Basically, we look at three key areas or three key elements. We look at the economic sustainability, we look at the environmental sustainability, and again, we look at the social sustainability. All these things are bringing in new ways of doing things so as to protect the natural environment, biodiversity, the environment, and the resources we have that are limited in supply within our continent or within the entire world. Then global supply chains have also changed completely, and people in that area must also learn the new ways of transacting business, making supplies easy, and tracking goods and services. We can't do that without technology today, so we need them to make things easy for us. All these factors are what are causing the changes in the skill requirement expected of employees in organizations. Therefore, every employee must reskill himself or herself with the requisite technological know-how and the skills or abilities to be able to adapt himself or herself in the global market space. If not, you become irrelevant, regardless of your qualification, whether bachelor's degree, master's degree, PhD. If you don't learn to upskill yourself, you become relevant in the global market arena. Now let's look at evidence of skill descriptions. Now, skills expected to change by 2030. So we have core skills expected to change by 2030, basically about 39%. Then we have workforce already trained in long-term learning strategies, about 50%. The companies seeing analytical thinking as essential at 70%. Then now, if we look at it very basically, these are the changes that are actually taking place. Look at employers expecting productivity gains from training, 79%. So if you go for training to upskill yourself, then we expect you to increase your level of productivity and the work you do. Then employers expecting competitiveness gains from training. So when you're taking to training to update your skill, basically technical skills that to be precise in this arena. The technical skills are the skill that is required, or let's say the job specific skill that individual must possess for the job that he or she applies to do. Now, the expectations are changing, and employers may not take you for training without expecting some good returns from the training in terms of the quality of production and the quantity of production you do, and in terms of analytical thinking. And today, because of the area of sustainability, there are other sustainable skills that is also required. These are new skills that employees need to have, in addition to the technical skills that they may have or competence they may have. One of them is about the anticipatory skill, basically looking things into the future to see what is likely to come. Then you prepare yourself in anticipation that when such a thing happens, you have the requisite skill to be able to adapt easily to the dynamics in the global market. We look at basically ethical reasoning skills. Ethics have become one of the most important things today, regardless of your financial resource or your material resource or your plant and machinery. You require people with ethical base to be able to do the right thing. Today, if your reputation is tarnished, regardless of all the resources we put in the organization, you may not head anywhere. And again, problem solving skills are very important too. And again, the concern for environment and social responsibility. And again, we talk about the digital skills in a contemporary society. Of course, digital skills have become very predominant in every work that we find ourselves doing today, in every organization. So it has become a basic skill requirement for everyone today, whether you learn it at school or not. You need to have it because in organizational setup, you are going to use a lot of digital skills in your operations. Then what staying relevant means. Now, relevance is about competence. So in competence, you're looking at your skill, your knowledge, and your abilities. Now, the skill here, we're looking at the technical skill, the skill required to do the job, a particular job. So let's take, for instance, if someone is an HR person, HR, you have several divisions. Now let's take, for instance, recruitment and selection. Then, of course, we expect you to know how to draft advertisement for recruitment, be it internal or external. We expect you to be able to do skill needs assessment. We expect you to have the skill in doing interviewing. We expect you to have the skill in interacting or let's say human relation skills. These are core skills you need to have in the discharge of your duty as an HR person in charge of recruitment and selection. Of course, also require different skill for compensation management, different skill for training and development, different skill for legal aspects in human resource management. So within the human resource fraternity, we have specialized skills required to perform each job. So if you call yourself an HR person today and you don't have a particular skill for the job you're doing, and you say that you be a generalist, now because you can't fit into the global arena in HR practice today. Then again, you need to have what you call the adaptability skill. It's part of the relevance. You must have the ability to adapt to changes that rapidly occur in the workspace or in the work environment. If you're somebody who wants to remain static or remain the same forever, there isn't any way that you can make any headway. We need to adjust to all these things. Adjusting or adapting to the current dispensation and the skill requirement require that you have to learn the new skill, apply it, and use it for the work. Employers expect to see evidence in whatever you do. So if you say you have acquired a certain skill in a certain area of a specialty area, then of course we expect you to show it, prove it. Let us see that in your presentation. Let us see in your output before we can say that indeed we have the skill. Then trust. Now, trust is key. When trust is broken, of course, there'll be no business again for you with a particular customer or client. So trust is one of the skills that you need to be able to be trusted. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Is if you say yes, make sure that we say that 10 o'clock, you have to be there prompt to render services or to offer a commodity to a client or customer. These are the four key things that when you want to look at the explanation of relevance, if you want to stay relevant in today's global market economy, then of course you need to have the competence, able to adapt, provide evidence of what you do, and you should be a trustworthy person. Then we can say that you have what it takes to do business in any area of work. Now, let's look at the skill mix for relevance. Now, there are several skills that we need to be relevant in today's world. Now, the technical competence, I have said over and over again that it is the job-related competencies or skills you need. So like I said, if I'm a teacher or a lecturer, then I need to have the skill in applying different methodologies or techniques in teaching my students for them to understand. I need to be able to design a curriculum. I need to have the skill in assessing my student. I need to have the skill in student relationship. These are core competencies or these are technical skills required of me as a lecturer. If I don't have it, then of course it becomes very difficult for me to be competent and meet the realities of today's world. They have for digital literacy. I've said over and over again that organizational activities are powered by electronics or powered by technology. And of course, individuals must have access to the digital skills, regardless of the nature of job you do, whether you're a micro business person, a small business person, medium, or you work within a large organization, or you're within the civil or government sector worker, you need to have the digital skill. You operate with computers. If you're a small business person, you need a mobile phone, understand the various apps that can help you to advertise a business where you can get materials to buy for ease. These are things you need to know how to use the mobile phone to do. It's not just a matter of making calls. If you want to also sell, you can use the mobile phone to make advertisement. You can do your advert on that. You can use social media outlet, so like TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, any of them to make your advertisement and to let people know that indeed you have this resource available at your end and they may come. So you need a digital skill. So imagine that you are a person working in an organization or doing your own business, you don't have digital skill. Then to what extent can you go? Today, people don't need to come to your shop or restaurant to eat. You need to make it known to them by using digital technology, possibly mobile phone with their various apps for the specific activity that you want to do. Then again, we have what we call data judgment. We use data for whatever work we do in a society today. We cannot base our judgment on presumptions or assumptions or let's say on perceptions, but we need data, we need information, and the information will give you basically, it will tell you what is actually prevailing, what is expected to come, and of course, you can make projections with data available. Because if your organization today, you don't have data to make your judgment, it becomes very difficult for you to be to to move at a very fast rate, or for you to know what is really wrong with your business, what is wrong with your client and customers and all that. So for instance, if you want to collect data from your customers to ascertain the level of acceptance of your new product on the market, of course, you can administer questionnaire, you can conduct interview, you can do observation, and you can apply any other tool or instrument to collect data and analyze. And that can give you a fair analysis of what the customers or clients think of you and how you can make an adjustment to be able to meet the expectations of clients. Then again, we look at ethics and trust. I think in the previous slide, I indicated about trust. Now, ethics is very important in our world today. I said before that you may have all the requisite resources, financial resource, human resource, material resource, but if you have a bad reputation, nobody will subscribe and do business with you. So ethics is one of the things, and that is why organization members are always focusing on code of ethics that to make people or organization members behave responsibly in what they do. Because the least unethical practice can bring the reputation of the organization into the mud, and that will not augur well for a successful organization. Regardless, in this case, regardless of the competencies you may have, if you don't have strong ethical base as an organization, you may lose your customers and look the pleasure in the eyes of the general public. Then critical thinking. Organizational members expect people to solve problems, and problem solving will require you to think carefully, analytically, or to solve problems or solutions. Without that, if you have a shallow mind, you cannot be able to meet the needs of organizations today. Organizations have expectations for each individual in the organization, and therefore you need to sit down, critically analyze issues, problems, solve them. Managers don't want you to come and tell them problem; they want you to solve the problems. It's part of your objectives. And that is why in most organizations, managers and subordinates will do what they call management by objectives. They sit down with you, plan about it, and they expect you to orchestrate it. In orchestrating, they expect you to do critical thinking, of course, critical reasoning, to be able to come up with solutions to your problems. It's not every problem we report to your manager. There are certain initiatives you must also take, and that's require you to do a critical analysis, do critical thinking before you can be able to solve them. Then last but not the least, in this skills is what they call the communication skills. Communication is indispensable in the organization. There are two key areas I would like to emphasize here: the listening aspect of communication and the speaking aspect of communication. These are skills we need to be able to know and understand. It's not about you knowing how to speak either any of the languages we speak around, but knowing the techniques in listening and the techniques in speaking. Because if we are a business person, we expect you to speak persuasively or convincingly to lure people to patronize your commodity or services. So if you don't have a good command over communication, not just you speaking in a way in an accent that people will say, oh, you can speak well, no, but in a way that you can speak a business in a business way, okay, in a persuasive manner. If you want to convince people to patronize your commodity or service, and again, you must know how to relay information to people without any prejudice. These are the things that you require that you do to be able to meet the expectations of the global economy. And these are skills that you can't do away with. These are skills, these are indispensable skills. Going forward, we all need the skills to be able to meet the challenges of the global economy. Then working with AI and automation. And today, I believe that the emergence of AI has done a great service. If you know how to use AI carefully, it is important that you use it. But we don't use AI and forget about the work of the brain. AI cannot be responsible for the brain work. You must do the brain, and AI will help you to generate good outcomes for whatever you generate, for whatever you bring on board. So at the end of the day, AI will help you to refine your problems, your issues carefully. They can assist you, but of course, you as a human being must know what to do, must know what you're about. In our current dispensation, when it comes to generating report, either financial report or let's say project report, you need AI to guide you. AI also make work look very fast for ourselves. And you need to have the skill in using AI. AI come in different forms. You need to learn how to apply them differently in different situations for your presentation or for your work. So getting artificial intelligence skills, which is AI, is very key in whatever operation that you do today in the world. There isn't any other information that you want to find that you cannot get. The use of AI is very critical when it comes to report generating and when it comes to understanding problems and solving them. Then the use of it basically for a tool for draft writing and again for to analyze and to search for information. Then also helps in verifying information, verifying facts, and indicating biases and understanding the logic in your report and whatever you do. Then again, it's basically applied for professional judgment in whatever you do. AI can give you a very good analysis about your issues. It can give you a report where there are mistakes, where there are no mistakes, can tell you all this report. Then you will know the decision to take from there. Now, let's data, the use of data to remain valuable. Understandably, data is key. I think I've mentioned that you need data to make well-informed decisions. Without data, making decisions becomes problematic, if not impossible to do so. So basically, it helps us to measure, compare. Of course, let me use accounting data in this regard, or let's say a report in this regard. Let's say you have prepared your financial statement. You say, okay, now that financial statement becomes a yardstick. Let's say this year's own or let's say last year's financial statement, let's say 2024 financial statement becomes a yardstick for next year's or let's say for this year's performance. Now when you're able to get your information and prepare this year's performance to be able to ascertain whether you've made progress or not, you need to do comparative analysis to understand the conditions prevailed during those days in 2024 and the prevailing conditions in 2025, 2026. Then you know the shift. If it has to do with, let's say, exchange rate that have increased, let's say inflation rate that has also caused a shift, then you can do careful analysis and see. That will enable you to make projections into the future. Because with that comparative analysis about your financial stability or status, it becomes very difficult. And if you look at in management, when you look at management, for instance, or look at the process of management, you recognize that we say in the first tab, if you look at the Henry Fayol's explanation, we plan, we organize, we direct, and we control. Now, if I'm to apply the information here, you plan. When you plan, you set target. Let's say that you want to make 50 cars, let's say this week. So this week, we have all the resources that it takes to make the 50 cars. Now, when you're done with the 50 cars, you try to compare whether you have made the 50 cars or not. Of course, you compare your actual performance against the target you set 50 cars. Now, if you have made any, let's say, if there are gaps or the deficiencies, maybe at the end of the week you couldn't produce 50 cars, however, you came up with 47 cars, then the comparison will tell you what actually went wrong. Were there some deficiencies or waste alongside? Then it calls for remedial course of action. Then you can sit down and see how best you can make corrections and improve upon the performance. Perhaps some employees were skilled and therefore they use certain resources anyhow, and therefore there were some wastages in the process. Some also wasted materials in the course of it, and therefore this will call for retraining or reskilling the employee so that in the subsequent production they will use the resource or skill efficiently, so that there will not be any wastage in the production line. Now, at the end of the day, when you do the comparative analysis, that calls you to identify areas of need or skill discrepancy areas. Then it can bring in an intervention. That intervention could be either training tailored to a specific arena. Then you can introduce the intervention to bridge the skill gap between the employer, between what the employee has and what is expected of the employee. Then, of course, you can communicate result to everybody that matter. Then again, we talk about the issue about lifelong learning. In a contemporary society, people must learn all the time. And it's not that all the learning that you must go and sit in a formal, let's say, lecture hall, go to a classroom and be taught. Today, there are a lot of apps. You can go to MOOCs. That is a massive open online learning courses. You can take advantage of any of the courses there and do in a specialized area and update your skills. There are a lot of YouTube videos that you can also take advantage of not necessarily going to the classroom to learn. You can also do what you call self-directed learning in adult education and adult learning. Now, when an organization and you have not had a chance to go for training, you, the individual, know the skill need that, of course, you require to be able to improve performance at the job. You don't need management to tell you, because your job is critical and of importance to you. You take that initiative to do the skill, to learn yourself. You can do independent learning, learn by yourself by watching a YouTube video that relates to the job you do there or similar to the job you do then. Or you can go and search. AI and ChatGPT can also provide you with adequate information about the kind of knowledge and skills and abilities you require to do your new job. So lifelong learning is basically learning throughout your life. Nobody sees learning until the person dies. And even if you die, they use your body as a point of reference. In the medicine, if those in medicine, they use people's body to learn. So you don't cease learning. You must continuously or learn continuously to abridge your skill gap and meet expectations of industry. Then again, you must also learn to practice. Now, as you learn, say practice make perfect. You must always learn to practice what you learn. Now, sometimes you can have a prototype of the thing. Sometimes you can also improvise. At least if you don't have the right thing to even to practice, you can do that. And that will help you. At the end of the day, it's you improving your skills so that it can be very useful or relevant in the organization. And bear in mind that you don't learn to be relevant in one organization. You learn to be relevant globally. And therefore, when you are learning, the scope should not be within a limited space, but should be global in nature. Then again, we talk about seek feedback. Sometimes when you learn, sometimes you can demonstrate something in front of people. We expect to have feedback, criticisms, of course. We expect to have constructive criticisms that will help you learn more. Then you must also update your skills from time to time and share information, and also go to experts or mentors in the area of specialty. Learn more about your area of need so that you can bridge the skill gap that you have as a problem. Then again, we look at issue about professional networks. Professional networks keep you visible. Now, in as much as we expect to learn independently, or expect organizations to send us to training or to workshops or to seminar or conferences to learn new things, we must also individually learn to build networks amongst ourselves, like let's say with our mentors, with professional buddies, with basically with clients and other people who matter. You must always learn. Then employers and again peers. Let's make friends, not for ordinary social friends, but friends that we can exchange professional ideas to be able to build ourselves up for the future. And of course, social capital and professional networks are found to be one of the key things that can actually drive change in this global economy. Then ethical adaptation. I've mentioned about ethics as key requirement for the competencies required for today's world. Because of many scandals in the organization, some of the time, or most of the time, ethics is relegated to the background. But on any unethical practice can result in danger for an organization. And one of the key things that we require employees to do as a skill requirement is the issue of confidentiality. It's not everybody that can keep quiet about secret matters or strategy of organization or policies of organizations. Some of these things are confidential information that needs to be kept quietly, okay, until the time is due for them to be released out. But often than not, we see people releasing confidential information, secret information that may not augur well. It's a skill we need to do. Behaving correctly, behaving rightly, or doing what is right is an important thing that we must learn to uphold while moving forward in this global economy. Then again, verification. It's always important that we don't base on assumptions to make judgment. We must make judgment based on fact, and fact requires some level of verification to do that. Then talk about fairness. Again, fairness is about treating people equally without without favoritism, nepotism, without tribalism, without ethnicity. These are requirements that we need to uphold, and these are ethical requirements that must be upheld strongly in an organization. And again, the issue of accountability. Every individual must accept responsibility for his actions or inactions in an organization. If you do something right and you deserve to be praised, you take responsibility for that, you take it, of course, you become happy. If you have erred, have done something wrong, and you are being chastised or you are being criticized constructively for what you've done wrong, then take that responsibility and don't blame others for that. These are also skills, and these also contribute to what we call the sustainable skills requirement that we need in a global economy today. The relevance looks different across sectors. Now, you can relevant within your sector or your area of work. Now, relevant does not mean that if you are relevant in teaching, you can just go to the bank and work there because of digital skills. The skill requirement needed to work in the bank in a particular session is different. So those in education may require different skill, those in procurement, those in banking, those in engineering. Even within a particular sector, there are certain levels. The skill requirement you need to make a presentation at tertiary level may be different from the one you require even at the crèche or nursery or kindergarten level. So within a particular sector, the skill requirement may differ. Some may be similar but depending upon the level of people you are dealing with, that may require you to have a different set of skills to deal with them. Then barriers to relevance. In as much as we emphasize that we need to grow, we need to upscale ourselves, we need to learn more, we need to be more competent, we need to have technical skills, there are other challenges that also confront us in our quest to do our skills for global market. Now, complacency. Some people think that they've learned something, they know they've done it over and over again. It's a routine work they do. They require no further skills to improve on performance. So complacency set in, and people relax, learning differently for whatever thing they have to do. And that is one of the key things that is actually affecting performance. But let me challenge you. In our today or in the world of work, if you become complacent, possibly you can grow. And if you can't grow, with time you exit the market. The forces in the market will let you go by. Because assuming that I prepare, let's say, sobolo today, okay, I make distribution. People know me for my sobolo, and I become complacent, and I don't look at ways I can enrich the sobolo, and people come in with different innovation or new ideas and enrich their sobolo, their taste will be different. Remember, customers are wise consumers, and of course, they want maximum satisfaction for what they use their money to do. And remember that tastes and preferences of any wise consumer also change. So obviously their tastes and preferences will change. So don't be complacent. You must always learn. Don't assume that the way you used to do things pertains in today's world. In a very fast-growing technological economy, you need to always learn because every second new technology is emerging and you must learn to embrace it. So don't be complacent. You must keep learning all the time to meet the expectations within the industry. Then fear of technology. I wonder if somebody may call himself a lesser technology phobia today. We must embrace it. There's no need, there's no fear for embracing technology. That is what we need. Digital technology is key. We need it to do most of the things we do. I wonder an organization today with that technology. Individuals should not be afraid. Now, change is very difficult, but if you don't change you remain remote or you remain redundant in the field of work today. Then weak reading culture. We need to read. Today, internet has made reading very easy for us. You can get articles, you can get books offline and read. You can get some posts even on YouTube and read to update your skills and knowledge and abilities in things you're doing. Now, the more you read, the more it keeps your brain fresh. If I'm look at it from the education point of view, reading is key because it makes your brain look fresh all the time. If you're always on top, you understand contemporary issues, matters that is going on, and you always look fresh for your own personal life and for your work. But reading in area that pertains to your field of work, maybe new research has come up, groundbreaking research about the area in your field of work. Let's say in recruitment that you can use technology in different ways. There are apps, there are databases that you can use. Then you have to read about it, use it so to make your work easy. Technology has come to make work very easy for us. We must embrace it. Now, these days, it doesn't take a lot of people to become weak. But when you have technology, at any point in time in life, you can work, even in a vehicle, even in your bedroom, everywhere you find yourself, you can work and still make sure that you meet deadlines. So read about new things in your area of work and get specialized in it and improve upon performance. Then again, peer feedback habit. These days, it's difficult to get constructive feedback from our friends or colleagues because of what I call unnecessary competition amongst ourselves in the area of work or in whatever thing that we do. And we need to understand the fact that all of us, regardless of where we find ourselves, we need good feedback from our colleagues or from our friends to remain relevant in whatever thing that we do in today's work. Then weak networks. People hardly make strategic networks that will help them improve upon their skills and move up in the ladder of the organization. It is always important that we all move ahead, we all embrace connections, build social capital for ourselves, and be able to stand the test of time in this global economy. We all need each other. We need to love and care for each other, but not just an ordinary friendship or social friendship, but friendship that will link us up with each other to be able to get new skills and adapt to new ways of doing things. Now, of course, you can also do what you call personal relevance audit from time to time to ascertain these are personal things you need to do. Sometimes when you have a job requirement, ask yourself, do you have the requisite skills to do that? If we have, fine. If you don't have, quickly can resort to learning, do personal learning, then meet the job requirement and do it. Sometimes a manager will give you some challenges. You can carefully assess yourself whether I can do this or not. Sometimes if you say you cannot do it, then if you're not very careful, your job will redesign for you. But if you're very careful and you are quick or smart, then you can learn about the new job. So sometimes do your own audit, assess yourself carefully, and see whether indeed you have the right skill for the challenges around you, so that at least you don't find yourself wanting in any way. The final takeaway, as a staying relevant is a disciplined habit. Watch the industry, learn deliberately, practice openly, show evidence, and protect trust. Learning is good. Now, when we learn, basically it reflects a change in our behavior. We learn through practice and experience. The more you learn, the more you become well informed, and the more it enhances your knowledge and your skill level in the job you do. So I entreat all of us, if you really want to remain relevant in a contemporary business environment, then you need to learn to embrace technology. You need to learn to understand that the digital skills are relevant, and you must always learn, regardless of area you find yourself. Learn as hard as you could. For the forces of change in the global world economy, they are so strong that we can't do away with them, and they vary. Technology is coming, customer expectations are coming, competition, government policy, global trade, new ways of doing things, economic pressures, environmental issues, and even these days it's becoming more complex about the issue of sustainability. We look at the three key areas of sustainability. All these things are making the new work skill requirement different. So I will end here, and I'll say that learning is an indispensable tool if we want to remain relevant in this global market economy. Thank you. Hello.
Wow, 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 sir. This is a very packed presentation we've just received. A lot of information, new ones, and especially ones that should awaken us. A few things you mentioned, especially, I'll start with the barriers to relevance. You mentioned complacency.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for someone who has been in a particular role for, let's say, 15 years, most often than not, in these roles, your job duties become recurrent, they become repetitive. And so it's almost impossible for complacency not to set in. And so for such a professional, what would you advise them to do?
You see, organizations have strategy to equip individuals and make them very proficient in areas of work. If you look at HR, there is a concept called job rotation. Regardless, you see, the work dynamics is like that. Let's assume that somebody in an organization, we have what you call HR person in charge of recruitment and selection, HR in charge of compensation management, HR in charge of legal aspect, HR in charge of training and development. Now, these are four key roles. Any of these persons occupying this position can assume the director of HR position in the future. True or false?
Yeah,
So if you think that you have stayed in this position, let's say as a compensation management in an organization for 5 years, and you think that your role is repetitive, and you will not learn about the other ones, when you assume the substantive director of HR, you can't function. Because by that time, you don't have adequate skills or knowledge in the practice of the other sectors of HR. So job rotation is one of the key things that organizational leaders can do or employ. So don't make people remain static or stagnant. People must be skillful or proficient in whatever they do, but at least dexterity is key. So at least people, because in the case of somebody, somebody can also occupy the role immediately to the person comes. Assuming that your role is repetitive, and some of the managerial roles are not repetitive in nature, except maybe the clerical jobs, maybe photocopying, those who do not require high skill employees to occupy that. But if you are put in a design environment, or let's say you are in charge of innovation, you can't say that that role is repetitive. You must always come up with new brands, new ways of doing things. Let's assume that you work with, let's say, Toyota, let's say Japan, for instance. every year, different brand of Toyota car is coming. They should say that you're going to remain static because the work is repetitive. It requires innovation. So you must read, you must search, get new models so it can come on the market. So there isn't any work in a contemporary society that may consider as repetitive. Even if if you're a clerical office staff, sometimes you'll be taken to a different place to work, and that you may not have the same fit job doing there. So it becomes very important that you learn skills across. And of course, you don't learn. You see, one mistake we usually do is that we learn for one particular organization, but you learn in such that even you can move across organizations. If you are young and easily movable, you can easily resign and go to another that can pay you better. That's very important. But if you stick to one particular place and say that your skill level is required there, then when there is, let's say a redundancy, then become unemployed. But if you have a variety of skills and you can operate different, you can just easily secure a new job and do. So for I don't buy the idea of any routine nature. Everybody in his or work requirement or job description has some aspect that is routine in nature, but most of them require you to have different variety of skills to do them.
Right, right. Very well. And also, you mentioned that there was a line I picked from your presentation that we should never outsource accountability to a tool.
Yeah.
Yes. Uh, I would say AI is rampant now and easy to come across, easy to use. And rightly so, it makes work simpler in whatever role you find yourself in. But most often than not, people use it wholly and forget about their brain power, like you said. We shouldn't forget about. And in my role as an HR officer, you come across an application that clearly didn't come from someone's head. It was almost copied and pasted on a Word document and sent to you. And I am sure in your role as a professor dealing with students on a daily basis, you come across these situations as well. And so how would you advise us for us to mix our brain power with the use of AI and other technologies to make our work simpler?
Yeah, it is difficult to stop students, but the same technology has made it very easy. Now you can have, excuse me, if somebody's project work is basically AI, now there are software that you can use to track it. Now universities have certain percentage that we require. So assuming that, let's say we have the Drebit, we have we have other software that can help us track the percentage of content, let's say AI related, that you have brought into your work. So we can easily track it and tell them, "Hey, go and rephrase the work you brought here." You need to use your brain to do that. And it happens a lot in assignment. When you give people assignment to do, within 2 days they are done. Assignment that you say that no, it requires some level of thinking. It may require some brainstorming. Then sometimes within a day, people bring the assignment because you see that it's AI generated. Sometimes I can even see the features of AI, even those who are not smart. You see them, but we check plagiarism and we tell us whether the content is original or artificial. Okay.
Yes. So one thing I am leaving here today with is the fact that job descriptions are almost like living organisms. They are growing on everyday basis. And so you, as the occupant of the role, should yourself also grow on a daily basis to match the skills. So there is no mismatch between what we know and what is needed in the field. Professor, so if you have any last words for us, you kindly let us know.
Okay. I didn't get the last question. There was some interruption. If we can, but I think we're talking about job description.
Yes, so
I
I
didn't
was
get the
saying,
last.
yes, so what I picked from today's session is that job descriptions are living organisms. They are changing on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And they are changing to fit the industry they find themselves in because the industry itself is also changing. And so
Yeah.
job description should also change. And so
Yeah.
you as the occupant of the job or the role you find yourself in should also take it upon yourself to grow and meet up with the skills that are needed for the job. That
Yeah.
is what I am taking from today's session. And so I want to say thank you. If you have any last words for us and our viewers, would like for you to give us.
Oh, I just want to express my appreciation to you and to all the viewers for taking time from their busy schedule to listen to the presentation. I think it's an arena that we all learn together to be able to improve upon our productivity and the quality of service we render organizations. So I entreat everyone to keep learning. Learning has no end. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Eugene Owusu-Acheampong. We thank you for spending time with us today. And so if you just joined us, yes, we are about closing, but you have not missed anything because you find this video on our YouTube channel right after the show. And so kindly let us know where you are watching us from, where you watched us from, your name and your location. If you think today's session was informative and packed, then you have a lot more to learn from us 𝐀𝐝𝐬𝐢𝐬𝐢𝐸 Consult. If you have followed us for a minute, you will know that we organize annual conferences. Earlier this year, on the 30th of April, we were in Takoradi to organize one such conference. Every year, we convene HR professionals, business leaders to talk about relevant topics. And so this year is no different. This year, on the 29th of October, we are in Kumasi to bring you the 𝐀𝐝𝐬𝐢𝐸𝐴𝐷𝐷 Business and HR Summit. The theme for this year's summit is building sustainable and competitive businesses through people, innovation, and leadership. Again, it's on the 29th of October, 2026 in Kumasi. You can join us in person and also you can join us virtually. And so we advise for you to follow us on our social media platforms for any such information regarding this summit. We thank you again for joining us today. This has been the 𝐀𝐝𝐬𝐢𝐸𝐴𝐷𝐷 HR Digest, yet another impactful episode brought to you by 𝐀𝐝𝐬𝐷 Consult Limited. Thank you, and we wish all males, all fathers, and all fathers figures a happy Father's Day. Thank you, and see you on the next episode. Bye.